So here we see Manchester United have the ball during settled possession in the middle third, sitting in their usual 3-2-4 position shape, with Sunderland's 4-4-2 defensive shape now temporarily shifting to a 5-4-1, as Granit Xhaka drops from the midfield line to track Mason Mount's movement into the left-sided half space, taking up a deep position almost in the back line. Now, whilst I have said in previous videos that progressing the play down the channels is suboptimal, I am specifically referring to the build-up phase, in deeper areas of the pitch in the defensive third. Higher up the pitch during settled possession, I actually think primarily progressing the ball down the channels can actually be highly effective. But how is this the case in the middle third but not in the defensive third during the build-up phase? Well, it's pretty simple for why, and we actually saw an example of this at the start of the game, and you'll see what I mean later on in the video. But let's first analyse why progressing the play down the channels in the wider areas was successful for United's goal. So as Leny Yoro has the ball here, you can see that even though it may seem like an insignificant detail, Sesko's positioning actually has a massive effect on the build-up to this goal, as the fact that he's positioned himself between the two Sunderland centre-backs means that he has effectively positionally pinned Alderete, the left-sided centre-back, in the back line, which stops him shifting over to the left or pushing up to Mbeumo in the right-sided half space, which therefore means that Masuaku, the Sunderland left-back, is reluctant to push out and slightly higher up the flank closer to Ahmad, fearing that if he stretches that space between him and Alderete on his inside, then Mbeumo will be able to make a run into the space that's vacated. And so this means that United are able to create a 4v3 on this right side, with both Masuaku and Alderete holding deeper positions in the back line. And you're going to see how United exploit this 4v3 advantage, not initially, but eventually through this passage of play. But before I get into that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. They've got a variety of different current season and retro jerseys, including the new season Manchester United jerseys, available for just $15. Here are some of the alternative Manchester United jerseys from this season that they sent me over, alongside some unique retro jerseys that they've got on the site as well. You can also get free delivery for all orders over $50, and if you use code Atlantis at checkout, you will get a discount as well. So I'll leave a link in the description and in the comment section below. So from here, Leny Yoro picks the right pass, as rather than going out wide directly to Ahmad, giving Adingra time to shift over to his left side, United's right, he instead splits him and Isidore, finding Casemiro, now meaning that Adingra is going to be a second or two slower to adjust his body positioning and get out to Ahmad if Casemiro can get the ball out of his feet and play that pass over to him quickly. Now in this instance, Casemiro isn't able to play the pass out to Ahmad quickly enough, and so Adingra is able to get back across and force Ahmad back to Yoro, and now Sunderland are back in their compact 4-4-2 shape, with Xhaka pushing up onto Bruno. But United do well to draw Sunderland high again. Casemiro entices Isidore, who then takes the bait and continues to press on his own onto De Ligt, and so now when Yoro receives the ball, Casemiro is in behind Isidore, and that pass from Yoro to Casemiro out to Ahmad is on again. But this time, despite Isidore making up the ground and getting back to Casemiro, it's Adingra's high positioning that United are able to take advantage of. And so once again we see Yoro avoiding that direct pass out to Ahmad, instead splitting Isidore and Adingra, finding Casemiro, who's now able to play the pass out to Ahmad, and now when Ahmad receives the ball, Mbeumo makes a perfect run from that right-sided half space, firstly dragging Siddiqui deeper, and then the underlapping movement wide drags him out of that half space area, which creates that few yards of space to allow Ahmad to slightly progress the ball into the final third. And after playing the pass out wide to Mbeumo, Ahmad provides the same movement, with that underlapping run ahead of play which drags Siddiqui deeper. Masuaku, who was poor throughout this passage of play, needs to be more aggressive with moving to engage Mbeumo. But regardless, Ahmad's movement ahead of play does play a part in his passivity. But now, because of Ahmad's movement, Siddiqui isn't high enough to move to engage Mbeumo when he cuts in field, but crucially to this goal, United are able to get players in and around the box, with both Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes high, which means even though Mbeumo's cross isn't going into a high value area, simply by committing men into the box, Mason Mount is in the area where the ball falls, and his first touch to set up the shooting opportunity is fantastic, as is the resulting finish from the bouncing ball beyond the keeper into the near bottom corner. And so this goal stemmed from United using that overload on the right side incredibly well, Euro picking the right pass instead of going out wide to Ahmad directly, instead going first infield to Casemiro and then out to Ahmad to utilise that overload effectively, but also the coordinated movement between Ahmad and Mbeumo on the right side, which worked to create the space to eventually allow Mbeumo to play the ball into the box, and Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes following up play, getting into that position to take advantage of a ball which may not have been directed at Mason Mount but was put into a decent area that a player with the quality of Mason Mount was eventually able to take advantage of. However, now I'm going to show you an example from earlier on in the game so you can see the contrast between progressing the ball down the channels higher up the pitch in the middle third versus doing so in deeper areas during the build-up phase. Here we see United have the ball inside their own box, with De Ligt pushing to the edge of the box, creating that diamond shape with the goalkeeper and the two wide centre-backs, with Casemiro beginning to drop from the double pivot alongside De Ligt to create that double pivot on the edge of the box instead. Now initially Euro receives a pass from Lamens, which is used as a signal for Sunderland to engage in a high man-to-man press. Casemiro's movement towards Euro and the ball is what I've been saying that United need more of, in order to reduce the passing distance between our players, increasing the probability of each pass actually making it to that player, and opening the possibility of shorter passing sequences. Casemiro's movement towards Euro works to drag Siddiqui high up the pitch, and now when Euro plays a pass into Casemiro, he has two options. He can either split Adingra and Siddiqui with a pass out to the flank where Ahmad is dropping deep, or he can bounce the ball back to the keeper. If he goes back to Lamens, the keeper can now sweep the ball out to Luke Shaw, and now United have drawn Adingra and Siddiqui high on their right side, allowing them to now create a 2v1 against Bertrand Traoré on their left side, Sunderland's right, which is now going to force Traoré to either commit to Shaw and leave Dalot in a massive amount of space, or drop off to cover that space that Dalot can move into, in turn allowing Shaw the space to carry the ball out of the box. But either way, utilising this quick circulation of the ball from one side to the other, drawing Sunderland high on their right side should allow them to progress the ball out the defensive third on their left side. And whilst initially on the surface the pass out to the flank doesn't seem like the wrong option, when Ahmad receives a pass you can now see the issue, and that is that now United have effectively boxed themselves in on their right side, with Ahmad receiving the ball facing his own goal, which now allows Sunderland's left-sided centre-back Alderete to squeeze up onto Mbeumo to close off that passing lane, with Adingra and Siddiqui shifting over to their left side, United's right, which works to cut off all of Ahmad's shorter passing options forward and in field, forcing him back to Euro. But even from here, despite Casemiro maybe going wide a bit too early on, it actually does set up United to exploit the space on the far side, created by Sunderland's pressing shape having to squeeze over to United's right. However, the thing that is so frustrating with Amorim's ball progression strategy from the build-up phase is the insistence on utilising his vertical lofted pass up the channel into the centre forward too early on in the build-up, which is what we would see Amorim Sporting do just with Gyökeres instead of Sesko. But as I've stated before, even with Gyökeres in the Premier Liga, let alone without Gyökeres in the Premier League, these lofted vertical passes in general are fairly low probability to find Sesko in the first place, without then having to rely on him being able to link play with a first-time flick into runners behind, which, more often than not throughout the course of a game, is going to result in a lot of turnovers. And so in this type of situation, I think Amorim needs to instruct Euro or Shaw, whoever side the ball is on, to not look for that long pass as often, and instead look to circulate the ball back across goal, to then enable United to circulate the ball to the other side, and exploit the space that's been created by the opposition having to first squeeze over, and reduce the passing options for Ahmad and Euro on the side where the ball is. And in general, during the build-up phase, I think United simply need to work on using De Ligt on the edge of the box for those bounce passes more often, as this will enable us to draw in pressure and then exploit the space vacated with these wall passes into De Ligt and out to the wide centre-backs in the space that has been created by the forward on that side, looking to cut the passing lane from the goalkeeper into the wide centre-back, but getting drawn towards the ball, which then allows the wide centre-back to receive the ball with plenty of space to drive forward into, as whilst going long into Sesko and accepting frequent turnovers doesn't have a significant effect in games against opposition like Sunderland and Burnley, who aren't as effective at retaining possession and controlling the game. United do need to improve their ability to play out of pressure without having these frequent turnovers from possession, which I think could be optimised by using those bounce passes into De Ligt more often, rather than looking to progress the ball down wider areas where we're more likely to get boxed in and shorter passing options cut off, which then forces us into these long, lower probability passes upfield. So let me know what you thought of my analysis in the comments section below, and if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. I'll leave a link in the description and in the comment section below. And if you want to sign up to my Patreon to get access to any circle charts or plot graphs, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.